Hello friends, my name's Emile and welcome back to Reach the Peak, the show where you guys recommend the cars and then I take them up our hill climb course to see which one can come out on top. Today we have 5 vehicles for you here as usual, and we're going to be kicking things off with quite possibly one of the craziest vehicles to ever take our hill climb so far. This is the 2013 Toyota GT86 Upgrade Hero. 899 horsepower, 747 foot-pound of torque, 2,832 pounds weight. This is an S1 class car, 895 MPI when equipped with these snow tyres. It is the most powerful vehicle here today, and it's also the torquiest. So yeah, you heard me right. Almost 900 horsepower going through the chassis of a car which is only really meant to take 200 from standard. And it weighs 2,800 pounds. That is an insane power to weight ratio, and you've got to remember this is a GT86 and that's all going through the rear wheels. Now admittedly, the one good thing about the Upgrade Hero is it does come with the Rocket Bunny kit, which does mean that this vehicle can actually get bigger tyre widths because of the larger wheel wells of the Rocket Bunny kit. And they are pretty big tyres, but still 899 horsepower is a lot. So what does it actually drive like? It's pretty decent if you are very, very careful. You have to be very careful on the throttle of this car. You can't just mash the throttle down. It won't do what you want it to do. It will just try and kill you. It is actually a pretty fun vehicle to drive. In that regard, as most of these cars that, slide around a lot and try and kill you are, they're usually a decent amount of fun, and if you could get this thing in check, yeah, it's a fun vehicle to drive, certainly. Definitely not the sort of car you should be using for, well, doing a hill climb course. No, do not, think that I'm saying, oh yeah, this is a great rally car. Nope, no, it's not the best of cars for this, but it's not too terrible. I've driven worse up here. You can sort of see through the bumpy sections it does have a couple of issues. This thing does have race suspension equipped, and of course that means it's quite low to the ground and it's quite hard. And the Rocket Bunny kit means that this car's lower to the ground than it usually is anyway, so yeah, the bumps upset it a bit. But yeah, overall, it could be worse. It could be much worse. And, again, it's kind of a bit of fun to chuck around here, so I'll give it that. From one crazy Japanese car to another kind of crazy Japanese car, although not so much in the statistics section, this is the 1997 Mazda RX-7 FD. 261 horsepower, 217 foot-pound of torque, 2,831 pounds weight. This is an A-class car, 765 in PI when equipped with these snow tyres. So of course, the RX-7 is famous for that rotary engine, and I love me a good rotary, so I do like the RX-7 an awful lot. I kind of still wish in Forza they'd re-add the Spirit R, because the Spirit R honestly is my favourite, or add the Mazda Speed A-Spec kit to this car, just something, because the body kits for this car aren't very good. The wide body isn't very good either, but we'll cover the wide body version of this car when the Upgrade Hero goes up the mountain eventually. Anyways, we are just talking about the stock car here, and well, the RX-7 does have a few cars we can compare it to going up the hill before. We've had the Toyota Supra, the Hyundai Genesis. They sort of all sit around the same category for me, sort of sports cars, I guess, and the RX-7, it's pretty good. Out of all of the sports cars we've had up here, the Supra, the Genesis, this is the best handling of all of them, and the reason for that is it just has lower power. 261 horsepower is 60 less than what the Supra had. It's almost 80 less than what the Genesis had, but because of that, it's a much more controllable car. This is a really nice car to drive up here. The RX-7 by default is usually a pretty nice car to drive. It's usually nothing spectacular. But it's a good nice car to drive, and I mean here, it's not amazing, it's not a huge revelation or anything, but it's a damn good car to drive, there is no doubting that. Again, the RX-7 is one of my more preferred of the sports coupes, and that does make me happy that this car is pretty controllable, and a pretty good vehicle overall. Nothing really negative I can say about this vehicle. It is rear-wheel drive, you don't get the sort of traction you get from an all-wheel drive vehicle. Even from a front-wheel drive vehicle, you don't get quite that much traction, but It's certainly a decent vehicle. For this, you could possibly build a rally car, the RX-7 as well, which is, yeah, not something I was really expecting to say, although then again some RX-7s did indeed go rallying. Anyways, next up we have the 2014 Ford FPV Pursuit Ute, another good Aussie car. 422 horsepower, 402 foot-pound of torque, 3,946 pounds weight. This is an A-class car, 766 MPI, when equipped with the snow tyres. It is the heaviest vehicle here today. So, we've had the HSV Maloo go up the course. That was the only other ute that we've had go up so far, and the Maloo set a decently good time. I think it sits at about the late 218s. Admittedly, the Pursuit Ute, comparing this to the Maloo, is a little bit weird. The Maloo had over 550 horsepower, this has 422. They're not that comparable, but, you know, Reach Peak does hold surprises, so you never know. As far as actually driving this thing, it's pretty decent. As far as, like, comparing this to the Maloo, honestly, handling-wise, there isn't all that much different, and both are pretty darn slidey, as of course you'd expect from some vehicles which are, you know, naturally more front heavy. You know, the rear end doesn't have quite as much ballast over it, which does of course induce sliding. Look at the El Camino. So yeah, you know, it isn't the best handling of vehicles, certainly, but it's decent enough. If I had to pick sort of which one's the better handling between the Maloo and the Pursuit Ute, I'd probably say the Pursuit Ute, just by virtue of the fact slightly less power to chuck through the rear wheels, but honestly they're very marginally different. I believe the Pursuit Ute is cheaper, which is about the only real advantage you get of the Maloo, other than the fact you can actually build this with more parts, I guess, if you wanted to. So yeah, you know, choosing between the Pursuit Ute and the Maloo, it depends what you want. You know, if you want out of the box a faster vehicle, you're going for the Maloo. If you want a vehicle that you can sort of maybe build up a little bit more and is just cheaper to buy, then the Pursuit Ute's what you go for. You know, if I was picking one of these vehicles to drive, though, honestly, I'd probably go for the Maloo. I do love Fords, you know, I love the Australian Ford Falcons and so on, but the Maloo, for me, is just more sort of my thing, so there you go. Anyways, from a crazy Australian ute that should never see snow to a vehicle, well, which should be off-road all the time, it's the 1975 Lancia Stratos Group 4 rally car. 265 horsepower, 202 foot-pound of torque, 1,918 pounds of weight, A-class car, 800 MPI. This vehicle actually comes standard with the snow tyres, it's worth noting. So, the Stratos Group 4, this of course came in with the Blizzard Mountain DLC, and I was very excited to test the rallying Group 4 Stratos, because, well, you see, this car is an A-Class 800, it's essentially a pre-built rally car, and as we've seen from other cars which are A800, the Subaru Brat, you know, stuff like that, they've done very well up here. You know, sort of the rally cars do very well, kind of unsurprisingly, I guess. But yeah, the Stratos, of course, rear-wheel drive, which can pose its disadvantages, and it kind of does. It is still a very good car to drive. It will catch you out sometimes, admittedly. You know, you put a bit too much power through one of the corners, and that rear end, you know, it'll just start poking out. You know, start twitching a little bit. It does like to get its twitch on, as you'd expect from a mid-engined car with not very much weight. But overall, it is a very, very good driving car. It's very quick for something that has 265 horsepower. You know, that isn't a lot. It's about the same that came in the RX-7, but because by virtue of the fact this is lighter, I guess it's more aerodynamic in the sense that it's just a wedge, and of course it's on off-road suspension and so on. It is a quicker car than the RX-7. Yeah, it is a solid car. If you need something to drive up Blizzard Mountain that's already pre-built, like you don't really have to put much thought into building because it's already built, the Stratos is a fine car to go with. You know, I would still recommend something all-wheel drive. I would suggest you look at the sort of the Subaru rally cars, and well, the Brat Horizon Edition is so far one of the best A-class cars. But yeah, you know, the Stratos, not a bad vehicle if you're just looking for something quick and easy. And finally today, Another rallying legend, this is the 1973 Renault Alpine A110. 123 horsepower, 106 foot-pound of torque, 1,576 pounds of weight. This is a B-class car, 647 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. It is the least powerful vehicle here today, it's the least torquey vehicle here today, it's the lightest vehicle, and it's the lowest in PI. But do not let that fool you. The Renault Alpine, pretty darn successful rally car from the 70s, one of the more iconic, certainly. I've always liked the A110. Out of all of the Alpines, it's probably my favourite. I do like the GTA Le Mans, admittedly, but I think the A110 might be my favourite. I don't like the A310, just because I thought the car was a little bit ugly looking, but yeah, A110, very, very cool vehicle. And this vehicle, actually, I haven't got any of them on the car for the moment, but it does have some really cool body mods. So if you want a sort of car with a decent amount of customization that can look pretty darn crazy, the A110 may be your friend. But what about the actual driving characteristics? Well, it's a very weird car to drive, this one. It is much quicker than I expected it to. This car starts out at D-Class, I believe. It is relatively near the top of the E-Class, but it is a D-Class car nonetheless. I was not expecting it to be as quick as it is when it comes to its acceleration. For 123 horsepower, I don't think there's many cars in this game that can go quite as fast, you know, at speed in the snow as this can with that much power. It's just very, very quick, strangely quick. You know, it's also got pretty darn decent traction. The engine is in the rear, the drives are on the rear as well, as you'd kind of expect. That does mean, you know, you've got a lot of weight over the rear end, and while the Ute, you know, struggled with not having too much weight over the rear end, rear end cars that have a lot of weight in the rear can also struggle. This can, for a few of the more high-speed corners, that rear end can start coming out, and it will really slow you down if it does do that, because you haven't really got enough power to power just through it. But the A110 is a very solid car, much better than I was expecting it to be, and honestly the biggest surprise of today. Really very good car. I recommend you go try that out if you haven't already. Anyways, on to the times, and it is the Lancia Stratos Group 4. That's the fastest car of today, going into 38th place with a 212.299, beats the Impreza 22B by 0.4 of a second exactly. Beats Lamborghini Countach, Skyline R34, really good time, almost beats the LFA, which is pretty darn surprising. Moving down the Baltimore, the RX-7 FD is in 73rd place with a 219.706, stuck between two big power cars, the Vantage V600 and Challenger Hellcat. Does beat the Supra, which again sort of holds true to that, it's better than the other sports cars I've driven up here argument. The Pursuit U is in 76th place with a 220.474. It is 2 seconds off of the Maloo, slightly quicker than the Commodore GTS. Admittedly, the Commodore GTS was one of the first ever vehicles to go up the course, but it is worth noting that. Moving down the Baltimore, the GT86 Upgrade Hero is in 90th with a 222.042. Just too much power coming out the rear end of that vehicle. It was fun, but as far as getting a good hill time run on the snow with that, good luck, because it probably isn't going to happen. And the Alpine A110 is in 112th with a 226.113, which is still pretty good when you consider it's there with a bunch of A-class cars, you know, the Silvia, the Fiori, you know, they're all A-class vehicles. Almost beats the RX-7 FC, which is pretty interesting as well. Anyways, friends, that is it for this episode of Reach the Peak. As always, if you've got cars you'd like to see go up the hill climb in this series, please let me know what they are in the comment section below, and I'll add them to my list. With that all being said and done, friends, thank you all very much for watching. My name's been the Real Emile. Till next time, farewell.